Highwayman's hitch, robber's knot. It's a knot that has interlocking loops and it locks in one direction and it runs in the other direction. So if you think about it, we're going to lock off a boat or tie off a boat. So I want the boat to be tight, but I need the loose line to be accessible, and I'm not spending half an hour undoing what we call a granny knot. Yeah? So it's quite simple. I say it's simple. Boat line, bank line. Boat line, fixed line, loose line. Right, take a bite. Right, so that's called a bite, that loop there. The first thing I do is come over and take another bite out of the boat line and pull it tight on the opposite line. That's important. Then I take another bite out of the bank line and pull it tight on the boat line. So lock on one side, tight on the other. So if you've done it correctly, it should look about right. You should see a series of interlocking loops, not all twisted up. So now my boat, hopefully my boat is locked, it's tied, and that's tight. The bank line, because what I'm doing is, in your direction, you're pulling against the knots. In my direction, I'm pulling it free. And you're looking quizzical. But you know how to do this. Okay, great. If you're using ropes in the boat, make sure they're good quality ropes. What you don't want is knots and stuff and that sort of stuff. So make sure the rope is good quality. I suggest you borrow this piece of rope because that's reasonable quality. But if you're out in a boat, you don't want a lump of rope in the boat floating around. If you capsized and you needed assistance from another boat, then you don't want your rope getting caught in their prop and that sort of stuff. So you can either put it in a bag, a dry bag or something. You can coil it up in a bag so when it's in the boat, it's all in the bag, and when you need it, you pull it out. Okay, there's one thing. Or the other way, it's called a chain sennit. So you have a loop in the end. Make a loop, and then if you start that way, make a loop, and then you've got like an open mouth. Another bite, 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 bite. And that can sit in the boat by itself, a short rope, and if you need it, and you've done it correctly, yeah, that's it.
How did you make this?
Oh, that is just a thumb knot. Yeah, I mean, the thing about making thumb knots, if you tie the boat off with a thumb knot, it's exactly
okay, so
this.
I didn't know if it was like a special...
No, it's just so I could create a loop so I could tie that onto there.
Okay.
And then just keep this as your helm rope, and then, like I say, you might like it, you might not like it, but...
My husband always did that because we were on boats, and he'd
Right.
always make it look so pretty.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You have to get used to it. Yeah. He knows how to do that. I have forgotten about this. So, okay.
Gonna hold my body down, ain't no grave.
Okay, just before the video, a short word on resistance training. These days I tend to put the resistance on the crew rather than dragging something outside the boat. What I mean by that is whole boat, left side only, right side only, front left, back right, front right, back left, front of the boat, back of the boat, odds and even seats, thirds, halves, whatever, or go against the flow, with the flow, against the wind, with the wind, that sort of thing. So I introduce resistance in that way. However, if you do tow stuff outside the boat, don't be towing tyres or buckets with holes in. That's too much resistance. Those of you who do single boat paddling with a rudder, i.e. OC1, K1, Surfski, that sort of thing, know that if you inadvertently gather a little bit of seaweed and the like on your rudder, it does actually slow the boat down quite a bit. So you only need a small amount of resistance to get the training effect you desire. Knackering people, wearing them out and causing them to fail as paddlers in terms of their technique is not reinforcing a good technique at all. Anyway, more on the video.
Okay then, adding resistance to the boat. No tyres, no ridiculously heavy things. All you're doing is adding a little bit of resistance to make the catches or some aspect of the technical aspects of the drill a little bit more resistant, as hence the name. So what I do now, this here is the chain sennit. So there's a line. Now, we don't undo the chain sennit. If you think about it, that's like a long piece of seaweed. Just imagine that for a minute. What I do with the loop, I put the end loop over part of the pins. This is a BUK rather than a champion, obviously slightly different setup with the champion, and I run the line, the chain sennit, through the hole, or if it's a champion,
around about there, there's a bar. So you can loop it round. The idea of that is the sweep oar's on this side here. So really that runs out the back. Now, the chain sennit stays as a chain sennit, and that's what the resistance is. On the end, I've got a weight. This is only 1 kilo, could be half a kilo. That's just a decorative knot. It's a monkey's fist knot, just to stop it. It could just be looped through the weights. And that there just runs out the back of the boat. If you want more resistance, well, that's about the maximum for that. If you want less resistance, all I do is bring it in and wind it further in. So I'd, for example, take it off there, wind it in a bit more, or a bit more, or a bit more, and so bring it up. You see what I mean? You're just reducing the resistance as you go along. So basically find the length that suits your crew. Out the way of the sweep oar, and it's this here that actually creates the resistance in the water. The reason for the weight is just to hold it just below the surface, or on the surface, or just below. And you may have to add a little bit more weight, but it won't be 10 kilos. It might be 1 or 2 kilos. So the line actually sits at an angle just below the surface. Just be aware if you're using this, if there's sea life and stuff, whatever it is, this will possibly, you know, it depends if you've got stuff like jellyfish or whatever, where you happen to, I was just thinking, because I had jellyfish where I was last week. So just think about any impact on the environment. Like I say, I prefer to use the crew to add the resistance, but if you want to try it, try that. I'd probably use it on fresh water rather than sea, but give it a go, see what works for you. But you'll be surprised that a small line like that, even with a small weight on the end, may create sufficient resistance just to give people a better catch, or service a particular training need or training requirement you're looking to achieve. Okay, if you're working with resistance that you're towing, you need some sort of quick release method of releasing the resistance just in case it gets hung up or in some way impedes the boat. So you need a quick release, and the knot I'm using here, it may look like a jumble, it's actually a highwayman's hitch, a robber's knot. I'll show you that at the end of this video when we talk about tying in the sweep oar. It catches in one direction, there's my loose end, I pull that away and it drops away. That's method 1 for quick release. The second method of quick release is to just loop the resistance line over the pins, or if you're using a hoop, maybe just carabiner that onto the hoop, and then, like I say, if there's any difficulty, you can just quick release it and get away, even if you lose the resistance and the running line with it. And there's the resistance line packed up in its bag. I don't use that line for anything else, so I make sure it's always in good condition and dry it out, etc, etc, look after it, so when you need to use it, it's in good nick and will serve the purpose that is intended. Okay, last little bit, how do I attach the throw line to the boat? I just attach it to the steering arm. There's a throw line, 2 litre bag, 2 holes in it, and I've just got a monkey's fist knot there, a decorative knot, it could be a thumb knot, just to stop the whole line running through. The blue line is attached to the orange line in this particular case, so it's one continuous line. I use the highwayman's hitch, and I'll show you on the back in this video how to do it. You have a fixed line and a running line, so in this case the fixed line is attached to the bag, and I make a bite. So I make a bite, and I take a bite out of the fixed line, in this case the bag line, then I take it and I pull it tight on the loose line. I take a bite out of the loose line and pull it tight on the bag line, and I've got, basically that can pull away, that's not going to do anything, and if I need it in a hurry, I just pull this line, away you go, and I deploy the bag as we've showed you. You could do it a bit neater, so basically if you really wanted to, tuck that away, tuck a bit more there, so there you see, flaked in the bag, keep it nice and dry as well, so when it gets wet, take it out, look after it. Once again, 2 interlocking loops, that's a bit tighter or tidier, it looks good, ready to go as and when you are. And that's really all there is to it, quite simple. I make these very low cost, you can buy them for a ridiculous price. It's basically a 2 litre bag, I put 2 holes in it, some sort of line that runs through. I've got 2 different bits just to make it multicolour, essentially, and I get a bit of plastic and make a loop and make a handle out of it, and that's all there is to it. But look after it. So I don't use this line, this is my throw bag. I don't use this to tie off the boat, I don't use this for resistance, anything else. In an emergency, in a capsize, you could use it to anchor the line
or anchor the boat, that's an emergency. Otherwise, my throw line stays with my throw line and is used for nothing else. And the other thing is, it doesn't kick around in the boat getting wet. It's taken out. And the other thing about the drainage holes is if it gets wet, hang it up and drain it. Hang it up by the monkey's fist knot or whatever, and just make sure it's dry. So if you come to use it in an emergency, it's going to be serviceable and not mouldy, falling apart, etc, etc. Okay, that's all there is to it. Flow lines, brilliant.
Gonna hold my body down, ain't no grave. Gonna hold my body down when I hear the trumpet sound.
So once again, lots of ways to tie the sweep oar in. You could have some big elaborate knot that takes half an hour to do. I prefer a very, very simple knot that you can have as tight or as loose as you want. I like tight rudders, give me good steerage, and if you have a loose rudder, that's fine, but you tend to find, as with this boat, it wears things out a bit quicker. So in terms of boat sympathy, if you like, I tend to probably do it with 2 pieces of rope. So if this was straight, I'd have a piece of rope going around here, so I've got a bit of a cushion. We haven't got that today, so all I'm going to do is simple knot. So I'm going to connect that to the steering arm. That's the steering. Some people call this the steering arm. That's the steering arm. This is the sweep oar, just for terminology. And then put that the right way round. So through there. So I'm going to come. It's very similar to the. I make a bite again. Another bite. Feed it through this time. And what I've basically got, if you can see that, is I'm locking off in one direction. It's a surgeon's knot. If you have internal stitches or stitches, they tend to use this knot, something like that. Then take it round the other way, and I'm going to lock it off crisscross in the opposite direction. See what I mean? So I've got 2 locking knots, and actually, that's all I need. If you have a bit of rope, you may as well use it to help you lock the boat off, but you don't need it. I've done 3 in that case, and all I'm now doing is just getting rid of the rope, to be quite honest with you. Getting out of the way. So maybe just a couple of bites there. But I end up with that crisscross, lock in one direction, lock in the other, and then I've got good steerage on the boat.
Okay.
Rather than, I mean, it works. I see a lot of people steering around, and the boat, the sweep oar is loose. It doesn't have to be locked in tight. I can extend the door, I can do all the things I want to do, I can elevate it, I can push it, I can twist it, everything I want to do. So it's sufficiently tight, but not too tight. But you decide how tight you want it. Because I like my rudders tight, I really lock it in. So I want to be standing and coaching, set it, go and talk to the boat as I will today. We'll do a bit of technique stuff as well. That's how I like it. Other people like it floppy, but if it was loose, I'll go walking down the boat to do some technical stuff, and the sweep oar will drop out the back. So you decide what you want to do, okay? And that's that one.
And then I looked way down the river. I saw the people dressed in white.